Hello, my name is Paul Marchbanks, and this is Digging in the Dirt, with an introduction to Agnès Varda's Cléo de 5 à 7, or in English, Cléo from 5 to 7. Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless is known in part for its wild editing style, for the surprising use of unexpected jump cuts that hastily fast-forward the action, creating for the viewer the same breathlessness that characterizes the journey of his anti-hero as he careens from adventure to adventure, crime to crime, and woman to woman. Many film critics and notable directors have heralded such stylistic experimentation, as well as the film's repeated breaking of the fourth wall, in which characters look directly, meaningfully into the camera. Like other French films of the Nouvelle Vague, or New Wave, it also has been celebrated for its embrace of behavior considered improper by the straight-laced standards of a social order committed to maintaining the status quo. Like Francois Truffaut's The 400 Blows, released a year earlier, Breathless makes much of male heterosexual desire, championing its full unrestrained expression. The 400 Blows opens with a 14-year-old hero being punished for looking at a pinup in class, and rounds off the tale with his detailing failed efforts to employ a hooker. Breathless opens in a similar way, with Michel mumbling to himself that he must do something as he looks at a newspaper emblazoned with the disturbingly sexual drawing of a young girl in lingerie holding a doll behind her derriere. Moments later, one of his many lovers helps him steal a car, and he's off to kill a policeman and check in on a couple more lovers in a nearby city, one whose money he steals, and the other whom he jokes about strangling. Film critic Roger Ebert has since praised the film's cool detachment and dismissal of authority, and A.O. Scott wrote on the film's 50th anniversary that it was still cool, still new, a hyperbolic joke that flaunts its thematic excesses and many homages to Hollywood film noir. It's a keeper, apparently, a very cool keeper. There's a scene nestled at the film's center that steps away from Michel's headlong rush through life and reflects on his hedonistic principles by allowing a male celebrity to articulate similar values during an interview session. The scene dangles before us the possibility of a thoughtful critique, only to dissolve into validation of the film's unrepentant sexism. Godard does this by allowing Patricia, the third of Michel's lovers, to join the throng of journalists questioning Monsieur Parvulesco about what matters in life. Towards the beginning, one of the interviewers asks whether the poet Rainer Maria Rilke was right to suggest that modern life will increasingly separate men and women. Parvulesco thinks Rilke was correct, an observation that colors every comment that follows. If one sees the sexes as occupying separate spheres and considers romantic connection to be necessarily tenuous, then it's a small step to relegating sexual intimacy to hookups and flings. Some viewers might think it rather progressive that Parvulesco suggests women can have dozens of healthy sexual relationships, but he also claims that there is no difference between eroticism and love. All we have, presumably, is whatever physical and emotional pleasure we can get out of short-lived connections. One might hope that Patricia, an intelligent and bilingual correspondent for the New York Herald Tribune, would be appalled by Parvulesco's cavalier attitude towards sex, particularly given that we just discovered she's pregnant with Michel's child. Instead, she smiles at Parvulesco and coyly sips from a straw as he begins flirting with her. When she asks him whether women have a role to play in modern society, he pulls down his shades, looks her over, and responds, "If they're charming, and wear striped dresses and dark glasses." Really, he can't seem to tout the new liberalism without sexualizing it. Though Agnès Varda thinks highly enough of Jean-Luc Godard to cast him for a bit part in her film Cléo from 5 to 7, she also works to unravel the tightly wound sexism in his work and that of other New Wave directors. In the film's opening, Varda appears momentarily to be giving lustful men exactly what they want. Cleo is an attractive woman who appears unfazed by, even appreciative of, the many gazes fixed on her as she walks down the street. When this statuesque blonde breaks down in a cafe, overwhelmed by the stress of awaiting a possible cancer diagnosis, a couple men rush to her aid, offering her assistance and free coffee. She seems gratified by this attempted rescue, by the reminder that though her body's apparent health may be a fragile mask disguising a fatal illness, at least, for the time being, it can reliably compel others' attention. Like most of us, she wants to be noticed and loved. But where Godard's film suggests that temporary sexual attraction is the most we can hope for, Varda configures desire as but one among many features of a healthy relationship. Such a meaningful connection is decidedly not on display when Cleo's boyfriend, Jose, drops by to visit her in the late afternoon. Though Varda allows this scene to play out against beautiful orchestral music, it's clear that this romantic melody is a thin cover for a rather hollow affair. Jose thinks Cleo perfect, just the way she is. Desirable, immobile, and needy. Now, it makes sense to look nice when preparing for a private tete-a-tete with your beloved, but the way Cleo silently adjusts her posture and facial expression as Jose walks up the stairs and into her room has to be one of the most painful things I've ever seen on screen. She has already slipped out of a dress and into a feathery silk nightgown, even though it's not nighttime, and allowed her female companion to carefully arrange her hair. As Jose approaches, Cleo spreads herself across the poster bed, which occupies primacy of place in her wide open flat, checks her appearance in a handheld mirror, and composes her facial expression as if she were malleable clay. Though we know she's totally preoccupied with her mortality, she hides her medical anxiety from Jose altogether, reminded by her companion that men don't like any talk of illness in women. It's apparently a big turnoff, though such men seem to appreciate well enough the appearance of weakness. Cleo does not rise from bed when Jose enters, but remains lounging in a languorous way Jose obviously appreciates. As she receives his caresses and kisses, she lets escape her desire that he come by more often, a small complaint he gently rebuffs with, "I thought you loved me." The implication is clear. Love, as he defines it, does not demur when neglected or ask for more than whatever pittance it receives. She may wish to attend the premiere of Don Juan, and he may himself dream of taking her on a vacation, but he just can't make time for either excursion. He dangles the possibility of taking her out on Friday night, but one wonders whether he will actually follow through. And when he discovers the hot water bottle under her covers, he asks if she's sick and intimates that she's a hypochondriac who needn't worry about her health because she's pretty. "You're strong," he observes. "Your beauty is your strength." Cleo completely internalized this very idea at some point in her past. She said something quite similar to herself at the film's opening, having just visited a fortune teller whose tarot reading boded doom and gloom. Looking at her reflection repeated endlessly in the mirrors before and behind her, she observed, "As long as I'm beautiful, I'm even more alive than the rest." This is a decidedly self-effacing, reductive way of looking at herself, one that distills her complex being down to only her sexual traits. In a world run by men whose preferences shape everything from women's marital possibilities to their professional success, Cleo's self-assessment appears inevitable. She allows others to call her casually by her stage name, Cleopatra or Cleo, and receives Jose's parting designation, he calls her a pearl, by radiating a sunshiny smile at him until he closes the door, at which point she immediately, tragically, falls back into the melancholy that has blanketed her day. The same year that Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless arrived in cinemas, the philosopher C.S. Lewis published a treatise entitled The Four Loves, a meditation on the ties that bind us, which distinguishes among affection, friendship, eros, and agape love. Lewis makes a further distinction between erotic love and the mere sexual instinct, which he calls Venus, after the goddess associated with love and beauty in Roman mythology. In Lewis's calculation, eros is a higher form of love than Venus. He doesn't conflate them into the same thing like Godard's Monsieur Parvulesco. Eros most definitely involves sexual desire, according to Lewis, but he argues that eros transforms Venus into something much more meaningful. Whereas mere Venus, or lust, is primarily a fact about ourselves, he argues, eros changes Venus into a deep appreciation of the beloved, which is, quote, important far beyond their relation to the lover's own need. We should not downplay the experience of falling in love, Lewis maintains, because when it happens, quote, spontaneously and without effort, we have fulfilled the moral law towards one person by loving our neighbor as ourselves. What do you think? Does Varda's Cléo from 5 to 7 ultimately veer away from the popular, oh so cool characterization of passion as an experience as intense as it is fleeting, or does the last half of the film convincingly promote another, healthier kind of connection?